What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Thinking Project podcast, where you get to hear interviews and stories from business owners that help you start your own venture. And today I had an amazing guest, but before I get into that, just remember that you can find all of my sales training and sales courses on empatheticselling.com if you're a small business owner or a sales consultant and you need some new business development strategies or way to convert leads into customers. This mastermind group is for you. So go check it out, empatheticselling.com. And with all that being said, let me introduce Kayla Potter, who was a really good friend of mine. I was actually on her podcast talking about philosophy and stoicism. She joined me today to talk about her venture in starting a business and pivoting and all of that good stuff, and how through all of the scariness and all of the trials, she managed to do it. She managed to create a thriving business, and how you can too. So make sure that you leave a rate and review for this podcast. Go follow Kayla Potter on all social media platforms. All of those links will be in the description below. And I really sincerely enjoy you guys listening. I really appreciate it. I'm really grateful. And without further ado, Kayla Potter, thanks so much for listening. And don't forget to share this with your friends. Well, thank you so much for being here, Kayla. I really
Thanks
appreciate
for having me.
it.
I appreciate being on here.
Yeah, we talked on your podcast a while ago.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to start there just because we had some awesome conversations about stoicism. So how has your journey been this far with that?
It's been really fun. So I've been sticking with the daily stoic. Like that's,
Sure.
But I feel like every day I'm having a conversation with my husband or one of my friends or something about what was brought up in the book.
It's cool.
It's cool. Like it's just a lot of it is kind of how I lived my life already.
Yeah.
I feel like it aligned really well with who I am anyway, but it was just like, I mean, Marcus Aurelius said it, so.
Right. Yeah, well, and I think we talked about it when I was on your show, but it's kind of made a comeback. But a lot of it, it kind of like people didn't, like I said, like people didn't call it stoicism, but they were all very stoic principles. You know what I mean? So I think some of the stuff stayed in, but like the kind of like the name didn't start coming back. Because yeah, I remember learning about, or like when you go to some of these motivational speakers or things like that, they'll hit on a few like, hard work, you can't control what you can control, right? Like stop focusing on outside things. And I think that's really poignant. And I think it's really poignant when you bring it up in what you do every day: fitness, nutrition, coaching, things like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, it transfers well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so tell me more about, and I guess just to get started, right, introduce yourself, what you do. So I'll give you a few minutes, or however long you want to take, to introduce yourself and like what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Kayla Potter. I am a mom of 2 littles. That's that's the first job.
Sure.
And then, but yeah, they're 5. I have a 5-year-old little boy and a 1-year-old little girl. So they keep me really busy. And then, in my off time, I'm a coach. So I've been coaching. I like to say I've been in the fitness industry for over a decade. So it's been 11 years now. And I started as a personal trainer, like most people do. And then, I started kind of my own personal training business in 2015. Yeah. I shared space with a chiropractor, kind of outgrew that space in a way, opened my own gym in 2016, and then had that for 4 years. And in 2019, we added this online component where we coached people through an app, and it was kind of expanded our reach, and we were able to help people outside of just our little town and everything. And so then when it all came down, when COVID hit, we shifted everything online. because we couldn't advertise. People didn't want to come to the gym, all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so we shifted everything online, and we were helping a ton of people online. And then I was pregnant at the time with my daughter. And so it was like in August that I made the decision to just like shift and move online. So we closed the gym in October. So I've been doing that just online for a year and a half now. And it's been, I mean, it was, people ask me if it was a hard decision, and it was hard because like I felt like I was like there, I mean, there was a lot of emotions behind it, right? I felt like I was
Hmm.
failing,
Hmm.
like I'd failed at this business that I built, Um, but the business lives on, so that's not true, right? But
Sure.
yeah, like I mean, yeah. And so I didn't fail at that, but I think it was the right decision. And I think it was almost like everybody that I had been in the gym industry with, that I'd gotten to know over the last 4 years, nationwide, we've all shifted online. Like it wasn't just me, it was like, this makes the most logical sense with how the world is going, right? And just how my life was. Like I was about to have a baby. Like I literally had her a month later, right? After I closed it. And so having
Yeah.
to, or being able to do it online it's been nice to just stay at home and be able to help people all over the place, and it's been
Yeah.
fun.
Okay, cool. So what are some of the core principles that you focus on with fitness? I've had a few fitness people on here.
Yeah.
I have a few really good friends who are in that industry. I've had like Drew Manning. He did the Fit to Fat to Fit. He's been on, and he was a lot of fun. And everybody kind of has their own approach to like fitness and nutrition and meal planning and things like this. So I'm curious, like, what is your approach, and how do you like connect with people on this
Mhm.
level?
So I'd say from like an avatar standpoint, I usually work with moms, which
Okay.
I am one, right? And so I
Yeah.
can relate really well. Um, and it's my whole goal behind it was like I want to help. There's a few different objectives, I guess, underlying objectives, because obviously,
Hmm.
we want to help people lose weight, and we do that. But I'd say the biggest shifts that women have when they come into the program is they recognize how little time it takes to fill their cup so that they can take care of everything else. They can take care of themselves, and it doesn't take away from everything else that they have to do.
I
Because
like
I know
that.
that is a huge. I've had multiple conversations with moms when they're talking to me and they're trying to decide whether or not to do this for themselves, because it's an investment of time and money and all the stuff, right? And so, but they're hesitant because if they do this, then they feel like they're taking away from their kids or taking away from the time somehow, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And but most of them realize a couple weeks, few months in, is like they're that much better of a person because they're taking that 30 minutes or that time to just be aware of what they're putting in their body and exercising, right? And so that would be
mm,
the main thing, is teaching them that it's okay to prioritize themselves. And then the big thing too is like I hate the whole crash diet, fad diet, eliminate whole food groups to lose weight type thing. And so
sure, sure.
so we just encourage them to eat. Like we basically just let them eat whatever they want. We just teach them how to track their calories and how to do it in a way that, you know.
Hmm.
And what's crazy is like, so we give them 2 food lists at the beginning of the program, and we say, ideally you're sticking with these for the first little bit, but if you don't, it's no big deal. Just track. We just want you to track. And so we
Yeah,
just give them freedom. We don't give them a calorie goal or anything for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and we just let them track their food. And then we kind of go from there based off where they're at. But what's cool about it is if they do eat, off of the list of like single ingredient foods that they should be eating, and then we just let them eat what they want, like they start to choose the healthier options themselves because you just feel better.
yeah.
And the goal behind it is like we eliminate food guilt, which is another thing that drives me nuts. And then but they do it with autonomy. Like, it's not us telling them that it's unhealthy. It's them being like, oh, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I like something you said at the beginning caught my attention, and that is you try to help people understand how little it actually takes to fill their cup, or to like feel like, and I guess what that meant for me, and what it triggered for me was that it doesn't take a lot to like start hitting your goals.
No.
Like people like catastrophize that in their head, you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, if I want to be fit, it means I got to be at the gym for 5 hours every day. Who has that time? So if it's not 5 hours, it's 0. And it's like this either or thing that they have going on. How do you break through that?
So that one is the one that we'd break through a lot. So it's kind of like an all or nothing mindset,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think it's just encouragement, because when they start, I think they assume that that's what we're going to require of them. Like, they're going to be going to the gym every day. They're only going to eat chicken and vegetables. Like, it's going to suck, And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this isn't that bad. And then because as you grow, obviously you need to be pushed. And there's
Sure.
what's the word? Diminishing returns, right? Like, you have to push yourself harder to get the same results and stuff like that. And so, but especially when they're first starting out and they've experienced burnout, because they've done that for 2 weeks and then we're like, well, this is dumb, I don't want to do it anymore. In the past, when we just slowly ease them into what a healthy lifestyle is supposed to look like, and they see results at the same time, like multiple times they've been like, I didn't realize that I only needed to do 20 minutes a day. If that, or 20 minutes 3 times a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't realize how little it did take to get the results they were looking for. Because most of the people we work with, some of them do, but the majority of people that you help lose weight, they just want to feel better. They want to be able to go and hang out with their kids, go on a hike. They don't want to be limited, right?
Sure. I like
and so,
that. Yeah.
But they don't necessarily want to walk around with a 6-pack abs, and like, they just don't. It's not a priority for them. They just want to feel better. Can we get them?
Sure.
Sure. Do they want to do the work that's required to get there? Most of them don't care to, and they are okay. Like, they just want to feel better. They want to feel good. They want to feel confident. And it doesn't take 3 hours in the gym every day to get there.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I like that. Just kind of like, it really is a mindset change for people, because I think you're right. Like, and what's funny, like, while you were talking about that, some of this hustle culture that is out there would say, like, and that's kind of where we get the all or nothing. It's kind of like a 6-pack or nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like this idea that if you don't want to be a part of it, if you don't want the 6-pack, like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, well, it's like in business, right? It's like, if you're not trying to make $1 million, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm having fun.
Exactly.
That's what I'm doing. Like,
define success yourself. Don't let
everything
define success.
That's what pisses me off. Because I counter with, like, look, because I heard this on a podcast, or excuse me, I was interviewing a guest on a podcast, and I've said this a few times on mine. He was like, look, how can you see the $1 million business idea if you haven't failed at your $1,000 business idea, or you haven't been successful at $100,000 business idea? He goes, you could be sitting on $1 million business idea and you would have no clue because you haven't started anything. And I was like, there you go, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's it, dude. And so it's like some people think they want a 6-pack, and then they start working and they're like, actually, I like where I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. And then they, and I would argue, and maybe you challenge me on this or not, but I would argue, like, for some people, the amount of mental effort that it would take to be able to, like, want to just, like, not be limited, right, would be like the same mental effort for another person who wanted a 6-pack. Like, I feel like it would be the same thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%. And I think you have to choose what you want to focus on too, because I was talking to somebody the other day about Well, okay, so I joined this like 12-week challenge with people, and they were judging us off of like our best transformation or something, and I had a good one, for like being almost 18 months postpartum, and I'm one of the like I am not a bounce back quick mom. Like it takes me a long time for me to feel like, okay, I'm back,
Yeah.
physically. And when I was talking to somebody and I was like, well, I was talking to he helps design my workouts because I have a coach too, because I do the thinking for other people. I want someone else to do my
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm tired of focusing on what I look like in the mirror. Cause like I look fine in the mirror, right? I may not have a six pack yet, but like at this point, it's like, I mean, I had 2 kids. It's fine. I may not return to my 18-year-old body, and I think that's okay. And I was like, I'd rather focus on something else and know that what I'm doing is getting me there, and I have clients where I have to shift their focus too, because they'll get down to their goal weight, or they'll get down, and then as they start building muscle, they'll start gaining weight and they're freaking out because they're focusing on the scale, and it's like, well, what do you really care that you weigh that much, or do you want to be able to deadlift that 250 pounds that you just deadlifted yesterday, right? And it's like, you have to, I mean, unfortunately you might have to pick, and so I would rather focus on my strength and how I'm performing at the gym, because it's more quantifiable than like, oh, I look better than I did yesterday,
Yeah. and I like what you said there, just about like, kind of like defining your own goals and getting where you want to be. I think a lot of people miss that. Like, I think we compare ourselves too much, which is a Stoic principle, like not comparing yourselves. You know what I mean? That's
Yep.
really hard to do though.
It is. Well, especially, I mean, we compare ourselves all day long with social media. We're constantly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I catch myself doing that too. Like
Mhm.
I'll catch myself seeing another person's podcast. But you know what always helps me kind of reset my brain. So like I'll look at you when I first saw Joe Rogan's podcast, I was like, I had mine, and obviously I'm not as good as Joe Rogan. And then you look at this stuff and you're like, well, yeah, but Joe Rogan has been doing like what he's been doing since he, for like 25 years. I haven't even been
Mhm.
doing it for a year and a half, and then I'll see another podcaster and I'll be like, dude, why can't I do that? And then I look and then I do research on them and I'm like, oh, they started this pod. I see people with like, because you never know someone's story. So I'll see somebody with like, who just launched a podcast and they got 1 million downloads on YouTube. And I'm like, what the heck? What am I doing wrong? And then I go research them and they've been like a big personality for like 15, 20 years. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. They've been
Right.
doing this longer than I've been alive. So I guess I can take, I guess I can chill for a minute and I really think it's like paying your dues almost, just like, all right, I got to get there.
Yep.
I got to put out, I got to put out some shitty episodes. I have to do it in my room and my kids walk into a podcast, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just got to do what you got to do.
I had a mentor that called it. He said, he's like, you guys, he helped us when we were running the gym. And he said, you guys are in the Rocky cutscene. Like, so when in the Rocky movies, right before he wins the championship, you see all the work. Like he's working out and he's waking up early, he's drinking his raw eggs and he's doing all these things. And it takes a minute and a half and then he wins, but in the movie, but really it took like 12 months of training for him to be able to be Rocky at the end. And so he's like, we're just putting in the reps. We're just getting it done,
Yeah,
So,
I like that.
yeah.
I think there's a lot of important principles. I mean, I like the fitness industry as like a life teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? It just teaches a lot about life and a lot about the reality of the situation. I think that is what's pretty cool about any fitness journey, about like a weight room, is like, 200, like when I used to, like, I don't bench press, like I don't do any of that anymore. I just like, I jump rope and I do jujitsu and I'm like, whatever, I'll do some deadlifts or whatever, some kettlebells. But like
Yeah.
when I used to do like when we were like working out in college football and things like that. It was crazy. Like 250 pounds felt light one day and really heavy the next day. And it was
Mhm.
such a mental like beat down. It was like, because you could be feeling really good, and then all of a sudden, and like for no reason, you did everything right, and like you've done this before, but now it's 100 times harder and you can't figure it out why. And it's just like, well, it's just today, man. Like you just
Yep.
got to keep going, dude. And that's just one of the many principles, but that's always one that I go back to. I'm like, 250 pounds can be easy one day and really hard the next day.
Yep.
I don't know, at least that was our experience. And I wasn't working out with like, I mean, we were working out with some pretty strong guys, peak condition, like, and it happened to all of us all the time.
Oh, all the time. Well, I think that's how life is, you know. One
Yeah,
day
exactly. Yeah.
you feel like you're, floating on air, and the next day you're like, "Why? I had a good day yesterday." I
Yeah.
think.
I do that with my podcast. Like, dude, and I have all of this data that's like, you're doing all right. We're doing fine. Like we're having fun.
Oh
We
yeah.
bring on some cool people. We have a lot of cool experiences. And then like a day later, I'm like, dude, this is the worst podcast. Nobody's gonna listen to it. Like, I can't believe this. And you're like, chill, man, just chill.
Keep
I
going.
have those, yeah, I have those conversations, but it's cool because it's really just insightful. It just builds a lot of empathy with people. Um, I'm sure you see that every day. I'm sure people comment to you about that all the time.
Yeah. Yep. It's all well, it's cool that everything how you do one thing is how you do everything. One of my
Ha,
favorite
yes,
things. Yeah. Is that a stoic thing? I think it is, isn't it?
I think so.
Um, I had one client, and it was like my favorite. I had it on a testimonial video, and she said she didn't realize that when she takes the 20 minutes to work out, and then the 5 minutes to log all of her food for the day, and then she just like ate what she said she was going to eat, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
She's like, I didn't realize how more in control I felt about all the aspects of my life. So just them taking control of those two things, which are simple, you know,
Hmm.
not easy, but they're simple.
Yeah. Yes.
Then like her house was cleaner. She felt like she could work and be a mom at the same time, and it didn't feel overwhelming, and everything just seemed to flow better. And I've seen that in my life too. In fact, when I was running the gym, I when I first started the gym, so my son was like 3 months old when we opened it. It was a really silly decision of mine, but we made it work. It
Yeah.
was hard.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. But so I didn't work out very consistently when I first opened the gym because I was so stressed about the gym, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't focus on that because I have to focus on the gym. And I'd throw it in. I was probably doing like 2 or 3 workouts a week consistently, but not every day. It was kind of haphazard. It was like it wasn't or it was not. I wasn't in control of that aspect. And then like a year into it, I started working out consistently, and I hired a coach to keep me accountable, and almost like immediately, not only did I start taking care of myself, but the business started to grow because I was more focused in all the areas,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
just because I took control of those two things. And so that's a lot of what I like to teach people is like, you don't realize how much just changing those two things
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
Like we know that it's going to help, you feel better and get healthy and fit into smaller clothes and all that stuff, but you don't realize what kind of impact it does make on all the other areas of your life.
Yeah. Well, it's just at that point, it's just discipline. And
Mhm.
if you can have that discipline here, you can have it somewhere else. And it just creates that mental, that brain loop where it's
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I'm on autopilot now because I can do this here and I can do that there. And it's a wonderful thing when you are able to prove to yourself and you have evidence in one area. And I liked the story of your client who was writing things down. I think that journaling gets a bad rap for a lot of reasons.
Mhm.
I don't talk about journaling in like a very like a stoic way or even like a mainstream way. I think journaling is super important, but I don't think there can be, you can just do it. Like, I think that
Yeah.
just like, if you want to have a gratitude journal, sweet. If you want to just like, I use journaling for brain dumps. Like, that's it. I like, cause I have ADHD, and in my head, I feel like there's 100 things wrong. And then I'm like, all right, I'll just write it all down. And then it usually ends up being two. And both of them are out of my control. And then I get to wad up the piece of paper and throw it away. And that's my like mental, my symbolic, like letting go of things. And but when you were talking about just her writing things down and documenting things, there was a really cool lesson that I learned about why journaling is so important and why you keep stuff. So now I keep all my stuff, all my journaling. And he started a really successful business because one day he woke up and he read his old journals. Like, he was like, I want to read something. And so he picked up his old journals, and then he put them down and he said, today's the day, and went and created a really successful business that day. And started. I mean, it obviously didn't happen in a day, but it was just cool. Like, when you document things and you can physically see your progression, it's cool. Like, it changes you.
Cool.
You're like, wow, that's me, right?
I actually do. I do the same thing. So I go through phases of journaling, but most of my journaling is like, this is what I want. Like, this is my vision for the future. And I like write it out.
Yeah.
And I'll write down. Sometimes I'll like brain dump what's in my head, like you said, or what I'm worried about, or all that stuff. And it usually just ends up like it's a big blog on the page, but I just do it because I feel better, So sometimes it's like,
for sure.
These are the things I'm grateful for. I have no organization with it. I just go with it. What am I feeling that day? And
which is great.
Which is great. And I turned to, it randomly opened up to March of 2020. And I was reading through like how I was feeling, and what I was worried about. And like, it was cool to look back and be like, hey, things are good.
Yeah, we made it, right?
Okay. We made it through that,
Yeah. And that just lets you get this like future perspective, right? And for me, it just, I mean, and if you want to get like really stoic about it, it just helps you kind of stay in the present, because you're like, look, one of my favorite, and I don't know if I said this on when we talked about stoicism on your podcast, but one of my favorite phrases, and it's found in it, like for me, it came from scriptures, like the Bible, but the phrase "and it came to pass" is one of my favorites.
We did talk about that.
Did we? Okay, it's one of my, like, it's my,
yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, well, it's just like it passes, and that kind of ties in with like a really like famous Stoic quote. Well, I don't know if it's it's a Stoic phrase, but I don't know if you find it anywhere, because you find like these little things here and there, and you're like, that's really Stoic. And one of them is like, and it came to pass ties in well with Winston Churchill's quote that's like, failure isn't fatal and success isn't forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, look, it's all gonna go one day. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy to, like, I watch maybe like young salesmen in the heyday, and I'm just like, they're like, what's your piece of advice for young sales guys? I'm just like, strap in. Like, oh, this is never gonna end. I'm like, all right, the money might not, something like, it came to pass, like everything passed. Everything just, and when I get like a crazy, there's a crazy situation, I'm just like, take a breath, you're like, it's eventually gonna go away. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it all doesn't matter. Well, and I think there's a quote that's from like an apostle of the Church Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, where he's like, it'll all be all right in the end. All right, it's not the end,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Universal redemption or whatever. It's like,
sure,
life's gonna suck sometimes, but it's all gonna be okay.
Yeah. And so you just embrace the suck. You just take it for what it is. Yeah. And did I tell you? I mean, I talk about this stuff all the time, and so I'm really glad when new people listen, so that older listeners don't have to hear all the same shit all the time. But I go, like, one of my favorite books is oh my gosh, and of course I would forget the title. Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved.
Oh, you did tell me about that. I wrote
Dude,
it down.
yes, yes,
Yep.
yes, 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 yes.
Yep.
There's only a handful of books that I recommend to people, and I have a lot, but that's definitely one of them because it just makes you like it just challenges you, and I like
Yeah.
books that like make you think and like because I
Yeah.
feel like that's where progression happens. Like I like to challenge people
Hmm.
because it makes you think. Like if I can challenge you on a position, you have to justify it to me,
Yep.
and
I
and,
like.
and you know you just and or justify it to yourself. Like you can't just
Mhm.
believe this and not tell me why. Even
Yeah.
give me some reason.
Or yeah, I love doing stuff like that. In fact, I
Yeah.
was telling mom the other day because I was listening to, so kind of funny family background. Like my brother is very liberal, like
all
left
the
as you
way
can
all
go,
the way
right?
across. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then my family, like my grandparents and everyone in general, they're more, conservative, and so it's really fun, really fun. And
Yeah.
I am dead center. Like I
Yeah.
remember when last election I took some quiz that was like, who should you vote for? Because I really was like, I don't know. And so
Yeah.
I took it and it was like 51% red, 49% blue. And I was like,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Really helpful.
Right.
Anyway,
Well, yeah. Go
and
ahead.
so but like my favorite thing is like my dad will tell me something and I'll be like, okay, okay. And then I'll call my brother and be like, yo, what's going on with this? And then he'll be like, oh, well, this is what they're saying. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hmm,
Yeah, you
okay.
kind of get both sides. Yeah, and politically I'm like I'm not left, right, or center,
You're
which
just,
is
I'm,
which is
yeah.
I don't
I mean,
like
like, I think I like took a thing and it was like, you're a libertarian. And I'm like, well, I'm now going to vote that way for the rest of my life.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I just see like, I don't want to get too political, but you just see like the double standards, like when
Oh,
Hillary Clinton was running,
mm-hmm.
everybody was like, vote for the first woman president. If you don't vote for a woman president, you're like anti-feminist and
Oh, I know.
you hate
Yeah.
women, right? And then we had the election with Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and there was actually a woman running, Joe Jorgensen, and
Right.
like and
That's who I voted for. Cause
and there were
she's
no yeah,
nobody.
and nobody said anything. Like nobody even knew that a woman was running for president. It,
Nope.
on either side. And I was like, and it was just it just like that was one of the times that it proved to me that it was like now I know that this really doesn't like
No.
matter.
Nobody
It's
really.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
don't know.
agree
Yes,
100%.
like voting
Yep.
matters and you should take the time, but I think community voting matters more. Like what happens in your
Oh,
community, you know what I'm saying?
very much so.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I just all of that's very
Like,
frustrating,
like
but I like your
show. It's all a show.
yeah.
Like, I'm
I
like,
agree.
well, they're just playing, they
Yeah, it's
want to
all
stir the pot. You're playing into that. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But I do like that that difference in there because it's really fun too. But I like to play, I like to tease I have friends who are really liberal, I have friends who are really conservative, and my favorite pastime is making them both mad.
Oh, I know. Because yeah. Well, that's what's cool is like you can be like, well, yeah, but they say this. So
Yeah, or like, I just like whenever we get on social media and it gets political, my favorite question is like, are you sure? And people really don't like that question. I just go,
no.
are you sure? And they'll start yelling at me and I'm like, all right, well, I guess so.
You are sure where you stand. No, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
No, that's cool. So with like your fitness and your nutrition and all of that good stuff, with online, how do you feel like people respond to like an online, fitness and nutrition just as like a presence there? Because is that a hard barrier to overcome? And the reason that I ask that is because I feel like it would be pretty common. Like, what? I don't have to go to a gym or anything. Like, this must be crazy.
Yeah. I haven't really seen it more as an obstacle. There's been a few times where people have just like, well, I would prefer to meet with someone in person.
Oh yeah.
But for the most part, I think the people that I've come across that have joined up, they've liked it better
Hmm.
because they didn't have to be a certain place at a certain time,
Yeah.
and
You kind of
they
work on
didn't
your own
have to
schedule.
go to a certain, like there was no drive time. There was no like trying to figure out that kind of stuff. Because those were obstacles that we ran into at the gym. Was like, well, these are our class times. What times
Oh
work?
yeah.
Like, none of those, because I work 2 a.m. to noon. Like, they, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, clearly you're not. And then, so like, I say I would run into obstacles more at the gym. And the cool thing too is, like, if they have a Peloton or they have
Oh, cool.
anything, beach body, whatever, it's like, oh, you want to do those workouts? That's fine. But we're still going to coach you because you're clearly not doing them. Like,
Well, and what's crazy, I think, and I've talked about this before again, like, it's crazy how we've like come full circle, like, with everything, like, oh, like, we revolutionized the fitness industry when we could do stuff online, right? And now we're all coming, and then like that ease of convenience, like, made it harder to like work out. Like, I know that's been the case for me, like,
right.
that's why I like jujitsu, because like I have to get up, I have to go somewhere. Other people are like, I'm big, I'm a fat guy, so there's not a lot of fat guys in jujitsu. Like, and I mean that literally, like, they invented a weight class in jujitsu because, like, it's Brazilian, and
Right.
Brazilians don't typically get as big as America. I don't know, maybe they do, but they didn't have a weight class for somebody over 240, 250.
Yeah.
So it's like ultra heavyweight. It's like you have like heavyweight, super heavyweight, and then there's like an ultra. And I was like, that makes me feel real good about myself.
Yeah.
And I jumped in and did it. But like, I have people there who, like, what need us there, and like we have like this team thing. Like, that's why I like it, because like, yeah, I have a gym like literally 10 steps away from me, like, in our thing, and I don't ever go, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And I'd say, like, it would just depend on who you are and what you want. Because
Of course.
like, we have dumbbells and stuff like it right here, right?
Yeah.
And I don't like to, like, first of all, this is my office, so this is work. I'm down here, I'm at work. So,
Yeah.
but I have a gym pass, and I go to the gym, but I have somebody tell me what to do that's not at the gym. And what's funny is, like, I owned a group training facility, and I hated group classes for myself. And people were always like, why don't you just, because I would work out when people were there, but I would like be off in my corner with my headphones in, doing my thing. And they'd be like, why don't you just come work out with us? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't understand. And I was like, well, it's just not, like, you have to find, in fact, I'm like really adamant with everybody about this, is like, you have to find your love for fitness and what that looks like. So like with you, it's
Sure.
Yeah. And like, you have to try new things. Like, maybe you buy the Peloton or the thing, tonal,
Whatever.
like,
Yeah, whatever they
and
are.
if you don't like it, like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to do the thing. Like, you can find the thing that actually you want to do, because like, I hated Zumba. Like, I'm not going to go to Zumba. I'm not going to go to High Fitness. I'm not going to go to the group classes. I'm going to go with my headphones in, listen to my violent music, and lift heavy weights. And not everybody wants that, but that's what they want,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I even like, I went to a boxing gym for a while, and it was fun, but I don't like working out in groups, which is really funny because I played team sports my whole life.
Sure.
And
see, that's why I don't like going to a gym. Like, I don't want to work out by myself. Like, I don't, because like, I'm the kind of guy, like, I don't need to go to the gym and prove anything to anybody. Like, I don't care if you can bench press more than me, squat more than me, or if you don't have like an inner tube around like I do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. Like, so I'd rather go somewhere where we can all have fun, and like, we're beating the crap out of each other. That's fun to me.
Yeah. So that's what I tell people. Figure out find your joy in the fitness, because it's there, like, whether it's hiking or rock climbing or walking.
Oh, dude. Oh, rock climbing is the worst.
Oh, it's so
Good
hard.
Gandhi. That is so hard. I'm like, yeah, they're like, do you want to, so my jujitsu gym is at a rock climbing gym. It's at the front in Murray or wherever that is, something like that. And it's always funny because it's a rock climbing gym. They're like, do you want to rock climb? And I'm like, I'm too fat for rock climbing. I'm not, Like, and dude, yeah, but I mean, they used to, but like the only rock climbing I ever did growing up was like when the National Guard came to your high school to recruit you, and they would
Yeah.
like whoever can get up the fastest got like a $10 gift card or something. So like that was cool. But I've always been like bigger my whole life, and so like I don't know, I didn't really, I just, and it's fine. Like I like it's fine for me. Like I don't really care,
Hmm.
because I can do stuff. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
funny. Like people, I don't know, and I also get a lot of heat for saying fat all the time. I don't know. But like I'm also, and then I make a joke like I'm also just an amateur comedian every Wednesday at
Uh-huh.
Wise Guys on open mic. So it's like I don't know, it's just funny. Like I think people, I make fun of it because people take it too seriously sometimes. I'm just like, dude, why don't you just chill? Like it's not a big deal. I don't know. I don't know. I think well, and it's like every body is different, right?
Hmm.
Like healthy, I think looks different. I don't know if I subscribe to like the healthy at every size, but I do think healthy looks different on everybody. Like it doesn't look the same, right? It's not like a six pack,
Hmm.
or you know what I mean? Like I do believe that. Like or like, the baseball in your bicep or whatever, like that's not fit. You know what I mean? That might not be healthy for someone else, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, and sometimes like it's got to be holistically healthy too, because like
Exactly. Yeah.
if you are anorexic, you're skinny, but you're not healthy.
Yeah, but it's
If
not healthy
you
for
are,
you. Yeah.
you're physically healthy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. 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 Good point.
I've met, like, I have a friend, one of my really good friends. In fact, she got down, like, I mean, she was at a healthy weight, but like she was running marathons and running a lot, and she wasn't she didn't feel good, but
Mm,
she looked healthy, but like she didn't feel healthy. And
yeah.
then when she stopped running so much, and she still runs, but like not as much, like she wasn't obsessed with it anymore, and she just kind of like she gained a little weight, but she's like, I just feel better. Like I like
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
you have to find what healthy means to you and what
Yeah.
your you looks like.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, I went through all of the, like I wrestled for, I don't know, like 10 years or 12 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And I guess I still do, but like I went through all the weight cuts. I went through all that unhealthy stuff. And
Exactly.
it's just not like, it's not like it, we just all developed really bad habits from cutting weight so much. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, and we were like, we wrestled, like I grew up in the class that like now you have to do like they do like hydration tests like a month before like the season starts.
Hmm.
When I was in wrestling they didn't do that, and you could weigh in twice, and you got an hour between weigh-ins, and you could do whatever you wanted to in that hour to make weight.
Oh my gosh.
Oh well, okay, hold on, not anything,
Not
because
anything.
not anything like you couldn't like make yourself throw up or anything like that, but
Right.
you could like put trash bags on and go to the boiler room and run around for an hour.
Yeah.
And well it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy. Like,
No.
it's just crazy. And that is also when I learned, funny enough, that water um sticks to itself and actually makes everything drier. Like that's why licking your lips makes them chapped. Or
Uh,
like
uh-huh.
when you take a shot, like if you're really dehydrated
Yeah.
and you go into the water and you like, so like my friends would get really dehydrated because they didn't drink any water or anything.
Mhm.
So they would go into the shower to try to like see if their skin could absorb some water, and it actually made their skin drier.
Because
You know
they
what I
like,
mean? And so it was actually more uncomfortable. And like, yeah, but like the best example is like licking your lips will make chapped lips worse
yeah.
because like water sticks to itself and comes, and maybe that's not like the scientific term, but that's like whatever it if I don't say, it stays, it's true either way. I'm not saying it right, but I'm not a scientist, so whatever.
There is a scientific word. I know what you're
Yeah,
talking.
the
I can't think of what it's called.
yeah, but like, yeah, so for example, like, you know they would try to, like I said, they would try to take showers, made their skin drier, made it crack more. And
Mhm.
you're like, what's going on? And you're just like taking too many showers, like your body's actually drying up.
Oh,
And it's
interesting.
it's really weird. I don't know, but like Yeah, so don't kill yourself. Like we did all of that and I have no interest in it anymore. I don't care.
Well, like I had a thought of like, oh, maybe I'll do a bodybuilding competition, and I talked to somebody that did it, and I was like,
Those
no.
are tough, man. Those are
Well, then
tough.
I'm like, she's like, oh yeah, like she'd been doing it for a long time, and she's like, oh, I've like, she had so many health problems from doing it. So like they're standing there on stage, and you're like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
here's this healthy person, like,
Well, yeah.
and it's like, no, they're actually their organs are like dying, but it's fine.
Sure.
They
Yeah,
look
and I
really
mean,
good.
I don't even know. I've seen some of the bodybuilders and I don't know. I just don't. I'm like,
No.
I don't care.
Well, what
Like it doesn't look good to me. I don't care.
yeah, but
I don't know. You just like because I mean, but everybody if I don't care. People can do whatever they want. I mean, because I'm sure there's like a healthy way to do bodybuilding.
oh yeah, I think there
Yeah, I
is.
mean, I
There,
think there has to be
it's like
because you can't
anything.
just
Like there's, I remember reading a book,
yeah.
Ronda Rousey's book. When
Okay,
she,
I haven't read Ronda Rousey's book, but
it's
Ronda
pretty good
Rousey's awesome.
actually. She is awesome. So she talked about how when she would cut, when she was training, before she like got a coach and before she learned like all how to do the nutrition and how to cut weight,
Mm-hmm.
she was doing it like a super unhealthy way, but she would do it, and then she
Yeah.
was like, I didn't realize how like that there was a healthy way to do it.
Yeah. Right. Yes, that's the idea, right? Because there is a healthy way to cut weight.
Yeah.
There you can cut 20 pounds. It should take you what 20 pounds should take you a couple months,
Yeah.
not not 1 month.
Right.
So it's just funny that, but yes, I think that you just have to find that balance, that I like having fitness and nutrition, experts on here because it's just something that I think we get really skewed a lot of, well, because of, I think, because when I hear like, oh, we compare ourselves to people on Instagram, like, I don't really do that a whole lot. Like I do with like podcasting and stuff, and I snap out of it really quick. But I guess if you're into fitness and stuff, or you're comparing like bodies,
Mhm.
like I guess that would be like bombarded. But what's funny? I talked to another fitness coach and he was like, he would talk to people and do consultations or whatever. And he'd be like, all right, well, what are your goals? And somebody would send him a picture. And he's like, dude, you like, if that's your goal, you're going to fail. Like they would be like they would be like me, like 28, and like a dad and full working, like super busy.
Mhm.
And they send him a picture of like a 23-year-old like bodybuilder,
Right.
and like he's like, no, you don't, like I'm here to tell you that you probably don't want that. Like
Yeah.
with your schedule, and he's
Mhm.
like, you probably don't want that.
Yep.
And so I think it's really cool that you just like walk people through it's their definition of what fitness and health looks like,
Mhm. Well, and what's gonna
because
make them excited? Because
that's true.
ultimately, 3 hours in the gym usually doesn't make people excited, but it would make some people excited. But most
I don't
people are,
know
I don't really want to do that. In
yeah, no
fact,
way.
I had a husband that joined his wife because usually I work with women, but sometimes if we have a guy, it's like, hey, husband, come do this with me, right?
Okay.
And he was like, I want to, like, he didn't send me a picture, but he was like describing what he wanted. And I was like, hey, but do you want to work out for longer than 30 minutes a day? Because he got really good results and he was getting stronger, but he was only doing 30 minutes a day. And I was like, okay, but do you want to work out for longer than 30 minutes a day? And he was like, well, no. And I said, then change your goal. Because, and
Yeah,
I was,
and by the way, like nothing's wrong with changing your
nothing's
goal.
wrong with changing your goal. It's just like, you just need
Yeah.
to realize that it's going to take more and you have to be willing to put in the effort to get there. And if you're not, then it's okay to shift it. Right. And
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
it's the
Like
same with business, if you want $1 million
yeah,
business, this is what it's going to take to get there. Do you want to do it? Is it
yeah,
worth sacrificing all of this
yeah.
to make the $1
I
million?
agree. And see, the hustle culture will be like, don't change your goals, change the effort. And I'm like, but it's okay not to want that. It's okay to like, I heard this in a rap song. I love hip hop.
Mhm.
And the reason I love hip hop is because I'm super weird. Like hip hop to me is like poetry. And so I listen to the, like I like the type of rap like where they tell, like tell stories and like
Yeah.
they call them bars and stuff like that. Yeah. And there was a rapper, Don Michael Jr., who said in one of his songs, he said, "It's okay to change your goal if you don't want to eat the price." And I was like, there you go. I mean, like, why are we bagging on people who want to change their goal when like that was the original? Like, I've always had a hard time with goals. And the reason I have a hard time with goals is the only reason is because like if you asked me like the question I hate the most is like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. I don't know where I want to be in 6 months, dude. I'm like, right now I'm in the stage of entrepreneurship in my life where I'm taking opportunities. Like, oh, that looks like a good opportunity. The cost benefit, the risk and out is comes back fine. Like, I'm going to take it. And it could be something that I don't even like, something wild, totally off the charts. But for me, I would never have known what I want my goals to be, or the type of person that you need to be to hit certain things without like constantly taking opportunities and figuring out what you want. So it's like, yeah, of course it's okay to change your goal.
Yeah, I've never been one of those. Like, you can have a vision of the future, right?
Sure,
but like,
sure.
That vision can change, and it can be. I don't know. I hate that too.
When you just start living and you realize like, hey, this was a cool goal, but it's not for me, And I understand the fine balance of like, yeah, but if I would have said that, then I never would have hit this and I never would have been here. I pushed through. And yeah, that's the trick, right? And if you could solve that problem for everybody,
yep,
you would be a billionaire. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's trade-offs to everything. Because I remember some guy I was listening to, and he was talking about trade-offs, and he was talking about how, like, when you compare if you are comparing yourself, which you shouldn't anyway, but he was saying like, he was talking about him. So he's like, I don't know. He's like a multimillionaire and he's 31, right? Like he's like, but he's like, most people won't do what I did to become who I am. And that's okay.
Yeah,
he's like, and when I tell people what I did, like, he's like, I sacrificed, like, he's like, he wrote a list, I guess, when he first started his entrepreneurial journey of like all the things that he was willing to give up in order to hit whatever his goal was, right?
Yeah, sure.
Dollars or something. And it was like everything. Like, he wouldn't watch sports, he wouldn't watch Netflix, he wouldn't, like all this stuff. And it was like, most people, friends, like going out with friends, like all like things that like make life awesome. He's like, no, I'm not gonna do that because I'm gonna hit this goal. And so yeah, he sacrificed all these things and now he hit his goal. But I think the whole like, okay, now I want to live my life. Well, it's like, well, I think he forgot how to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I remember listening to him and I was like, here I am, a mom trying to run this business. I only have so many hours in the day to do what I'm doing. Like, am I fulfilling all of that? Am I doing the best that I can given what I have without sacrificing things that I'm not willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
That's the question I think that you need to ask yourself is like, here's the goal. Can I get there with the resources that I currently have? And what am I willing to sacrifice to get there? And if you're not willing to sacrifice the things, then you need to be okay with the pace that you're going. Because like, sometimes it's not, can I get the goal? It's like, how long is it going to take me to get there? You know?
How fast? Yeah. I heard a quote in Stoicism, but it's great. It's a great quote. It's like from Mark Manson, but he said, it's not, the question isn't, can I do whatever it takes? The question is, what am I willing to give up? Like, that's always the question. Like, people are like, I'll do whatever it takes. But you're thinking that, like, because some people are okay working 12 hours a day. Some people aren't okay only working 3 hours a day because that's all you have. It kind of goes back to this thing. Like, I would work 12 hours a day if I had it, man. Yeah, but you won't work half an hour.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I don't know what I don't want to be, I don't want to do this thing because it, I don't have the time. Like, I know it takes, I heard Gary Vee or these guys or Tom Bill or Tony Robbins say they worked all night, they never sleep. And, if I could do that, I would be there. And I'm like, yeah, but but you won't take an hour. You won't do something for an hour, dude.
Well,
It's
it's
like,
like it's the all or nothing thing again. It's
yeah,
like,
it's
well,
that all
I
or
can't
nothing.
do
Yeah.
that, so I'm just not gonna do it at all. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah. Because it's like this fantasy people live in. If I had 12 hours a day, I'd totally do it. No,
yeah.
you wouldn't.
Have
No, you
you
probably
have
wouldn't.
you listened to the book or read the book Grit?
Yes, by Angela Duckworth. Yeah.
Yeah, when she talks
Great
about
book.
how like she calls it like mystify. We mystify success.
Yeah.
And then
It totally.
because if they're successful, well, they didn't sleep all night and they have 12 hours a day to work. So guess I won't be seeing.
Guess it's
That's
not for
why.
me in the
That's
cards.
why. Yeah, that's why I'm not successful. And it's like,
and that's yeah, for me, that's different than changing your goal. For me, that's like, if you've answered the question, what are you willing to sacrifice? And you've written those things down,
mm-hmm,
and you're okay with the timeline. And then you start to realize, like, this doesn't fit who I am.
mm-hmm.
Change the goal. Like, that's fine. Like, put in the effort. You realize, oh, I gave it 100%. It probably isn't what I'm meant to do. But like, not even starting is a whole different thing. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
well,
Like,
and using it as a reason to not even
yeah,
try.
exactly.
Yeah. Because I
Yep.
remember, yeah, like I was in a mentoring group for a while, and like the whole thing was like hitting the $1 million run rate at your gym and whatever. And I remember talking to people, and I was like I had that, like I was like, just wasn't willing to sacrifice what I would have had to sacrifice. Is ultimately what it came down to. And so like
Yeah.
I just set the different goal. Like I was
Yeah.
like, this is what I want, and so I'm just gonna work there, and then I'll reevaluate. But it was like, set the goal that makes the most sense with the timeline you have and the resources you have, and then just go for it.
Right. And and for me, it's just, it's so crazy. Well, thank you so much, Kayla, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Before we sign off, tell everybody where they can find you. I know you got a free group to coach in, so let everybody know.
If you go to lifeunlimitedpro.com, they'll have everything you need to know.
Cool.
So,
Well, thank you so much, Kayla.
yep, you're welcome.